Hello, YouTube. I hope you're having a fabulous day. I am recovering from surgery and I was supposed to get my hair done today. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just do it after work tomorrow because I'm just tired. And I wanted to encourage all my women. I've talked about it in a previous video for UFE. It's good. Hopefully, it won't recur back. It's for fibroids and 44% of African American women do have it. Some women have it and they don't know they have it because they think that it's normal to have cramps and everything. And for me, it was not normal. The first time I started having symptoms was 2017. I remember telling my ex to go out and get me some Midol. The heavy bleeding started in 2018 and my symptoms were very inconsistent to the point that the doctors didn't even think I had fibroids. And so fast forward to 2021, that's when I officially found out I had it. And so fast forward to 2025, I decided to have the surgery because I started heavy bleeding at work. And so that's when I was like, okay, I can't keep going through this. I'm not used to heavy bleeding. I'm not going to get used to that. So I was like, you know what? Let me just do the surgery. It was delayed. I was supposed to have it in August, but I'm kind of glad I had it now because it's like the weather is better and it's not as hot. But I will encourage women out there, go get your MRIs. If you feel something or your gut is telling you something, listen to it, advocate for yourself. I just wanted to say that really quickly. But today I wanted to talk about trifling ass bitches. Oh my God, Tubi. I got another Tubi movie for y'all, and it's called Dangerously in Love. And so the blurb, or whatever you want to call it, it implies that it's a man that's doing this to her, stalking her, or whatever. And it was not. So I actually wrote some notes down. Like, this movie wasn't just good, it was educational, because a lot of times there are red flags for the same way you should pay attention for the red flags in a bad relationship. You have to pay attention for bad friendships. And so I'm 36 years old, and I totally understand women my age and older that choose not to have friends because people are sick out here. They really are. Like, it's better to be alone in your solitude and in your peace than to be in chaos and drama. It really is. And so people might disagree with me, but it is what it is, you know. And so Kamal Smith is not just a writer, he is an actor. He did not write this, however, he was in it. He plays the brother of the victim. And so I just had to talk about this movie because it's just so relatable. And I know it has to be talked about, of jealous women in your circle. You have to be careful. And so I wanted to share some things. And, we've all been through it. We've all been betrayed. We've all been through some type of hating ass female jealous of us. And for me, thanks to Facebook memories, the other day, I saw something. Like, this is a particular female I don't talk to anymore. But once she wanted to take her son's father for child support for no reason. This man did everything for his girls, but he didn't want to be with her. I chose not to be friends with her. And I was wrong for how I discontinued the friendship because I just cut her off. I didn't say anything to her. But she turned out to be a pretty fucked up person. Like, she wished death on my parents. She accused me of wanting her baby dad. Like, bitch, you don't even want your baby dad. Like, what? And it's like, I'm reading this memory from 13 years ago, but I'm like, this is why, like, I made a very good executive decision in not being friends with her. And she was from my high school. We met in high school. And so my child's father is her cousin. And so she's like, oh, you're a whore because you got pregnant by him and this and that. And I'm like, I was hurt because it's like, you got pregnant at 15, had your twins at 16, and I never judged you. Why are you judging me because I got pregnant by your cousin and you was the main one? Everybody told me to keep the baby, but you was the main one telling me keep this baby. You was like advocating like, this is my cousin, don't kill my cousin type shit. And so even though it was 13 years ago, it just shows she was in a unhappy place. Looking at her Facebook, it seems like she's gotten better, but I think she's probably still in an unhappy place. But I said all that to say this, like, people are unhappy with themselves. So when they hurt you, you just gotta pray for them. And I was, I texted my homeboy. We all went to the same high school together. I was like 13 years ago, and today I wish her well. And I could truly, truly say that to everybody who's ever done me wrong. I honestly do wish them well. Because for you to treat me like that and to feel that way and to wish death on somebody's parents, you gotta be going through some real hell yourself. And I reread it and I got upset again, and I'm like, I know that's just the devil. I know that's the devil. And it's just sad because it's like she doesn't have, and it was 13 years ago, but it feels like 13 minutes ago. Like it time flies so much. And I remember her cousin, my son's dad, was like, Crystal, don't even worry about it, because she's coming from a place of hurt. She's upset that you don't want to be friends with her no more, and so that's a built up, and she just lashed out on you. And that was just, I was like, wow, he's right. And he was like, she's mad she don't have parents, because she does it. Like, her mom died when she was really young, and her dad is in jail, and both of us have our parents. The argument started because I was wrong for commenting on her post, because she was talking about how her ex-husband, now, she's married at the time, wasn't helping her. So I was like, well, you didn't look at the red flags. Like, she's one of those always playing victim. So it's like, I knew her character from her previous baby dad. So I'm like, it didn't make sense to me. So somehow or another, we started talking about her cousin, which was my son's dad. And she's like, well, you need to put him on child support and be like me. I was like, why would you say I need to be like you? Like, that didn't make sense to me. I said, I'm my own person. Like, I don't believe in that. Like, that's on you. Like, at the end of the day, I don't need his money. I have a job. I'm like, that's for broke bitches. Respectfully, like, you need his money or whatever. And then it's like, you're not even getting nothing. You getting like $30 a month for 2 kids. That doesn't make sense, And for me, I just never believed in that, unless I feel like child support is good if it's a situation where he's like, you're not getting any help from anyone, and so that's your like last resort. But for me, I had my parents, and then I told her, I said, I don't need your cousin to step up because my father is his father figure, and I have a job, so, and he doesn't have a job, so if I took him for child support, I'm not gonna get nothing. Like, that doesn't make sense. And that's what made her say, I guess, oh, I wish, she was like, oh, your mother died from AIDS and your father get hit by a truck, and yeah, he relies on his parents too. I was like, what's wrong with that? Like, first of all, for me, I wasn't relying on my parents. At that point, I had my own apartment and I had a job. I always worked, and when I didn't, I had unemployment. So I'm like, what is she talking about, bro? Like, but I digress. But that's just my little example of, she had her own issues that sabotaged our friendship. And so that's what goes into about with this is Dangerously in Love is about a woman who is obsessed with her friend, who actually wants to be with her friend, and she sabotages her relationship because she's divorced for a year and a half. And so watching the movie, it was so like interesting, and I actually wrote a few notes down. Red flags and a bad friend. Okay, so the movie starts off with Maya is left at the altar. Her husband leaves her at the altar, and so she's depressed. I think any woman, any normal woman is going to be depressed, right? So she's in bed. She does the not showering part. I don't think I'm going to like not wash my ass, but she's not washing up, whatever. So one of her friends is a true friend and the other one is not. So the one that's a true friend is like, yo, you need to get your shit together, wash your ass, and we going outside because this is not normal. So the one that's the therapist now, she's like, oh no, let her stay in, let her recuperate on her own time. So that's red flag number one, because a true friend is going to push you to go outside. Whether if it's somebody who passed away, left you at the altar, whatever. And this is for anybody. I personally have never had depression, but we've all been depressed, right? We're all human. We've all been through a situation that was sad, whether if it's death in the family, whatever. And I remember when my grandmother died, my parents let me like not go to school for a week, but I went back to school. Like I didn't just, you're supposed to get out of the funk, as my father would say, get out the funk. When you don't get out the funk now, that's considered depression. So like a person who used to bathe and now they're not bathing, a person who used to brush their teeth and they're not, those are signs of depression because they're continual abnormal behaviors, right? That's ultimately what mental illness is behaviors that are not normal. So the friend that was not the therapist was like, yo, you need some sunshine. It's a little cold outside, but that's all right. Put a coat on and we're going to go out because this is not normal. The therapist is like, oh no, she should just stay home. So that's a red flag right there that she don't have her best interest at heart, right? They don't encourage, right? She was in the bed and her other true friend took her outside, right? Another red flag that a person's a bad friend is they want to control your decisions. So the therapist, the fake friend, she was like very adamant about the online dating and she didn't agree with it. Now, there's a difference between not agreeing with something and being controlling. This friend was controlling, and so that's a red flag that that's a bad friend, right? So I told y'all before I had a former friend who she online dated. I never not once said to her, oh, you shouldn't do that. But what I did tell her was, be careful and you need to Google these men. I do the same thing. Any man that I'm dating, even if it's just briefly, I'm Googling you. Because that's what I learned from another friend who, she Googled her dude and found out that he used to rob banks. Like, this is not a tubi movie, this is real life. So after she told me that, like, that was like 15 years ago when she told me that. But once she told me that, I Google motherfuckers. And that's how you find out stuff, because a lot of people are not going to tell you things. You have to do your research, regardless of where you meet them at. I don't care if you meet them at work. I don't care if you meet them at church. You need to Google people. So my former friend who used to, like, mostly every dude she dated was either a friend or someone she met on the internet. She didn't really, like, because her line of work, it wasn't a lot of men at her jobs. So she, like, briefly dated one coworker, but she just didn't have it like that. So she, dated online. But I would never sit there and be controlling, like, oh, you shouldn't do that, like I'm somebody's mama. Like, you don't, and you have to watch how people talk to you. I want to say that in this video. Be careful how people talk to you, because some people befriend you because they want to control you. As sick and scary as that sounds. If somebody is like, oh, yeah, I'm your mama, for example, and y'all are grown. Now, when you're in high school, you might say that, whatever. Like, yeah, those are my kids. But past a certain age, if somebody's referring to you as their child, check them. And I'm so serious, because for them to refer to you as, oh, you my kids, I'm your mama, or I'm your daddy, or I'm your mom. No, you are not my mother. And don't play with me like that. Like, you have to check people, because some people are your friend because they want to control you. So in this movie, she was very controlling, talking about some old, like, she was going in like, oh, why you doing that? And it's like, and she checked her, and I was happy. She was like, I'm grown, and I'm gonna do what I want to do. If I were, as she should. You don't sit there and tell somebody what to do. You suggest it and say, be careful. You don't never, oh, you shouldn't do this. You're not their mother. So how dare you say that? So that's another red flag. She was controlling and wanted her to do what she say do. You have to be careful with that. Um, they hide things from you. So her fiance had left her a letter, but she rewrote the letter because she didn't want her to know that she actually. So the fiance was feeling guilty and left her at the altar because he slept with her friend. So the friend didn't want her to know that, so she rewrote the letter. But that's a red flag in itself, because if this man who left you at the altar left you a letter, why would I want you to read it? First of all, why would he give me the letter, right? So that was a red flag in itself. Like, the bride or the friend, Mia, she's not thinking like, but you gotta, me as the audience watching it, like, well, why would he give the friend a letter? How, if he left the altar, how would he have been able to give her the letter? Like, it just didn't make sense. But that was another red flag. And sure enough, that wasn't the real letter. That was the fake letter. Finally, he was calling her, trying to explain what happened. Like, yo, this is why I left the altar, because your friend is not who you think she is. So, he was trifling too for messing with her, but still. Um, Yeah, and I put that. The letter was suspect because why would Benjamin leave the letter with friends, right? So that was suspicious right there. Bad advice, overly concerned. So, um, it's a difference between somebody, and somebody had did a video about voodoo. Like, some people who wish you bad, they'll ask you how you are because they want to see how bad you're doing. It sounds crazy, but it's true. You have to be careful on the details you tell people. And it's hard because human nature, you want to think the best of people. But if somebody's like overly concerned, they're coming over every day, they're just, you would know. I feel like energy, people lie, energy doesn't. So if you feel like somebody's doing too much, they are. So that's another red flag that somebody could be a bad friend. They're just overly concerned. Like, they're just doing too much, right? You know. A crazy person is a crazy person regardless of where you meet them. Or in my channel that I've talked about dudes that have harassed and stalked me, I didn't meet them on any app. The first guy I met at a party. Um, the second guy I met through a coworker. Um, Another guy, I actually met him through um, somebody else. And the last guy who harassed me was a former coworker. So a crazy person, crazy people are everywhere. Um, so it doesn't even matter. I used to say that, like, oh, dating apps, whatever, whatever. But to be honest and true, just like the guy I met on Facebook, I could have met him anywhere. I just happened to meet him on Facebook. And when I Googled him, nothing popped up. But when I read his book, that's when it says that he went to jail for child porn. And I would have never known that if I didn't read his book. So it's like, you got to be careful with people. Use your discernment. Listen to that gut. Most of us don't listen to our gut because it's human nature. You want to give that person the benefit of the doubt, especially if it's a friend. But if you feel any type of negative energy, sometimes like you could feel negative and it's like, why am I feeling like this? It's the Lord telling you to leave them alone, telling you. And people will be jealous of your spirit. They could be jealous of like your personality. You be like, the person could have more than you. They could have a house, a car, a husband, all that. But because you're in your peace and you're in your truth and you're not, you know, like somebody, for example, somebody could be have it all together, but because you're not out here trying to pretend like you have it all together, they could be jealous of that. Because they're like, damn, I gotta pretend, but she's keeping it real. I can't keep it real because they don't know how to, or because of their status, or they might, whatever's going on. But yeah, people could be jealous of anything, but you have to tap into that. If you think someone's jealous of you, they are 9 times out of 10. And sometimes there is no red flags, but I feel like it is. Just like one thing I could say in all my former friendships with women in particular, there were always red flags. Even the girl that I told y'all, she told my business to her friend and lied on me. You know, another one that just was lying on me. And the red flag was it was a few. Like she compared our children with babies at the time, and she was acting like her child was so much smarter and better than mine. And I'm not the type to hate or whatever, but you should never do that. Like, oh, my baby's gonna be a genius baby, and it's like you don't know that. And my son is very smart, been getting on an honor roll since the 5th grade. So it's I don't know how her daughter's doing in school, but she used to that was a red flag because it's like, why are you trying to compare our kids? Why are you putting down my son for no reason? He didn't do nothing to you. Also, little things like her friend would inbox me and be like, oh, can you watch my kids? And I'm like, no. She's like, why not? You got time on your hands. So I'm thinking, oh, she's looking at my Facebook when I'm going out and stuff and just assumes I have time on my hands. But no, she was talking about me to her. Red flags, because she was like aggressive, like, oh, like you better watch my kids. And I'm like, I told her straight up, I said, I work, I have a son just like you. You have 2 kids, okay, but just because I might have time on my hands, that doesn't mean I'm not obligated to watch your kids. Like, I didn't understand her mentality. I'm like, you prepared the bed that you have to lie in the bed that you prepared. Like, you knew what it was when you was pregnant. You knew how your parents are. You know that they strict, they African, they don't play that. So you don't have help, that's on you. But her mentality was, we have a mutual friend. You have time on your hands, so you need to help me with my kids. And I'm like, no, I don't know who told you that, but no. Like, but those were all red flags that this bitch was not my friend because she was talking about me. Another red flag, that same girl that was her friend messaged me and was like questioning me about my tax return because I told her I got like a good amount of money. So she was like, oh yeah, I heard you had a good tax return. Da 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 da. I'm not thinking anything of it because it's about taxes. But that was a red flag that this bitch had loose lips and she was talking about me, right? So, because I didn't put it on Facebook about TurboTax and I got a nice check. I don't do that. Even back when I was young, I don't do that. But I did post that I was going out. So when she was messaging me about, oh, you got time on your hands, I see you going out and enjoying your life, I said, yes. So what does that have to do with you? So I'm thinking she's looking at my Facebook. No, this bitch was talking about me to her friend. So those are all red flags. Or like with the other former friend I told y'all, she never, like literally never texted or called me. She would return my call, but she never initiated. That's another red flag. There's so many, I feel like there's so many red flags that we ignore that somebody's not our friend. And because we want friends so badly, we ignore them, But the advice that I would leave you all is it's better to stay associates. Like, men are the smartest when it comes to friendships. And the reason why most male friendships last longer than female friendships is, like my father said, is you take friendship to a certain level. And with women, we have this high expectation like, oh, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. Nobody has to do a damn thing for you. And that's reality, right? So the less you expect from a friendship, the longer it will last. The less somebody knows about you is the better. Don't feel like you have to have, because I used to feel like, oh, I need a human diary. No, because that person either will stop being your friend at some point, or they could tell your business. So that's not good. That's not good. Create a YouTube channel. Talk to your siblings. So family, whatever, like find other ways to vent, because with friendships, people could get overwhelmed. Go to therapy. There's so many ways to just release. So, another red flag. Clingy behavior. Yes. That's another red flag. If the person always wants to be around you, if they one example that I could think of on the top of my head, this girl I met at work, we were friends very briefly. She was very rude to me, and I knew she wasn't a friend. This was like 2011. This was my very early 20s. I was 21, 22 when we met. And I cut her off very quickly because she was just constantly disrespecting me. She was very jealous of me. She would say things like, oh, you think you cute? I'm like, I know I'm cute. Like, who says that to another female unless if you just hating, right? She also was a thief. I had to tell her, put that shit back. If you want to steal on your own time. Don't be doing that with me. Like, I put my foot down with her. We used to work by 42nd Street. And so there was a Dwayne Reed in the area. And so she tried to steal safety pins. I said, you're going to put that back right now. And I'm not allowing that. Do that on your own time. Don't do that when you with me. There's cameras. We on time. Are you dumb? We on Times Square. 2 black females. Like, come on now. So, And one time we went to the club and I told her nice shoes. She's like, oh, thanks, I stole them. So she was a thief, like a known thief, but she was a bully. When I say this bitch was a bully, her friends was scared of her. I'm like, why y'all all scared of her? What kind of friendship is that? But I stood up to her, like, you're not going to sit there. We went to see Maury, right? At the time, I wasn't working. And because we met at work, but they wasn't giving us hours, so I ended up quitting because I was getting unemployment. I said it doesn't make sense for me to hold on to this job and my unemployment is giving me more, so I quit. So we ended up going to the Maury show, and so she was talking about a girl who couldn't make it. I was like, it's Maury, like it's not that serious, whatever. So she just randomly caught an attitude. She had mood swings. I don't know what she was going through, but she just was a very unpleasant person to be around. So we met in July. By Christmas, I cut her off. Her personality was just so fucked up. But she was very clingy. She was she was the type, she wanted to talk on the phone every day. I have a kid, so obviously we could talk on the phone, but at a certain point I have to go. She was one of those, couldn't understand that. I had another girl from work that was like that. I would call her back within 10 minutes and she's like, where were you? I'm like, I'm at home, so obviously my phone is not attached to me. it's not like I'm walking around with my phone in my pocket. Like, I'm wearing pajamas. I don't have pockets in my pajamas. And I explained that to her. I said, my phone is in my room. When you called me, I was in the kitchen preparing dinner or whatever I was doing, in the bathroom, whatever. I at least called you back. That wasn't good enough for her. I stopped talking to her because the clinginess, I'm not doing that. Like, that's weird to me in a friendship. Like, we're friends. I'm not fucking you. I don't swing that way, boo. Like, but that's definitely a red flag, in a friendship, that a person wants to take up all your time. It's not healthy. And finally, lying about their marriage. So in this movie, it was very interesting because they were supposed to be best friends, but somehow or another, this toxic friend slash therapist, she hid her marriage from her friends. They thought that she was married, and in the very end, they found out she was divorced for a year and a half. And the red flags was like, she was always speaking highly of him, but he wasn't around. So that's kind of like a red flag, because most women in friendship groups, they're going to bring their man around, at least sometimes. So the fact that she didn't bring him around, that's a red flag in itself, because most women want to brag on their men, like, this is my man. Men now, they hide their women. If they have boys night out, whatever, yeah, but it's like every time you at her house, oh, he's out of town. What a coincidence. You look around the house, where's the pictures? Like, so there were signs that they weren't paying attention to, but that was like the last red flag. Like, she's talking so highly about her relationship, but it's like, where's your man? You know what I'm saying? You're talking down about dating apps, and talking down about Benjamin, who left her at the altar, which that was messed up. But I feel like a good friend would say, if you need closure, get that closure, girl. That's what a good friend would say. Like, if I knew a friend that got left at the altar, what I would say to her is, listen, if you love him, you love him. It is what it is. I would never tell somebody, oh, you shouldn't be with him, unless if he's like a bum, he refuses to work, certain situations. But then for me personally, if you with that type of guy, I'm not going to be friends with you, because that says something about your character and you don't have a standard. But if it's a situation where he was a decent dude and then he just ups and leaves, I would encourage you to get closure. She didn't encourage that because, one, she slept with him, and two, she was trifling and trying to get with her. So that was another red flag as to her being a bad friend, because you should encourage closure. Like, this is someone you was going to marry. You need closure. You need to know why he left. She was like, fuck that nigga. Da-da-da. That's a red flag. There's no right, and I want to end with this note. There is no right or wrong way to do life. You could sit there and get advice from your parents, your sisters, or even me, or anybody from social media, but only you could write the chapters in your book. And those are my thoughts.